In the last lecture, we learnt how we can join separate objects together to form a single object. But maybe if you've got a very complex object, you might want to work on one part of that object independently from the rest. So in this lecture, we're going to just show you how to separate one part of your object from the rest of it. So let's go into Blender. And the process is actually quite simple. We have to go into edit mode to do this. So pressing tab, and we're going to be introducing two new hotkeys to perform this separation. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that everything is deselected by pressing A. We're then going to hover over the part of the object that we want to separate, and we're going to press the L key, which will just select that part of our object. So pressing the L key. L stands for linked. So whatever you hover over, it selects that edge, face or vertex and anything else that is directly connected. So basically the entire cube is connected to that one vertex, but it's not connected, as we can see the blender space between, to this cylinder or the other cube, which is why only the cube here has been selected when we've pressed L. Next, to separate this selected object, we're going to press the letter P. So pressing the letter P once brings up the separate menu. We have three options. We can separate by selection, separate by material, and separate by loose parts. Now, because we don't have any materials attached at this point, we can't separate by material, but we can separate by selection and we can separate by loose parts. So we're going to choose, for this lecture, we're going to choose selection. So we're going to left click, and what's happened is we're still in edit mode for our cylinder and we're still in edit mode for this cube, but we're no longer in edit mode for the cube that we had separated. Instead, it has a red highlight around it. This means that it is selected, but we are currently editing the original select tool, which is the cylinder and its cube. If we look in the outliner, we can see that this is the case. Currently selected for editing is the cylinder. However, our selected cube has been made a new mesh called cylinder.001. If we go into object mode and select, we now have it selected. If we press the tab key, we can now edit it. So it is now completely independent, both in edit mode and in object mode. The only thing you need to make note of is when you select and separate part of an object, the origin of that object remains as it was when it was connected to the rest of the original object. As you can see in this case here, when we drag, we have an origin that is outside of our mesh. Now we don't want that. It's not particularly good practice, so we're going to solve that issue by going to set origin, origin to geometry, and the problem is solved. So that's how you separate your objects, guys. Good luck, hope to see you in the next lecture.